Hi, in this tutorial we're going to cover how to create and email a quote to a vendor to get special pricing on maybe a large project you have. And this is going to be real similar to emailing an estimate, the other tutorial we sent out to you when we had added that to the program. You'll need to make sure you do a couple things. If you haven't watched that tutorial yet, please do, because there's some information in there you'll need, because we're not going to cover it in this video too. But basically you need to go under Administration, Manage Users, pull up your name, and make sure that your correct email address is entered here, and this SMTP server information, any port information, and whether it uses SSL. So you'll need this data entered before you can send any emails. And again, there you'll find more information on that if you go under the Help and under Tutorials, and the Email Estimate tutorial will explain how to get that information. It goes into a little more detail. Okay, so once you make sure you have all that covered, next thing we want to do is we're going to create an estimate, or I'm sorry, a vendor quote. And the first thing to do is, again, this is going to work the exact same way whether you're in a door and hardware schedule or an estimate. You can see this tab up here is door frame hardware vendor quotes. So that's where we want to go. Now we can't click on this yet because we have to select the job and customer information first. So let's just go ahead and pull up this guy here. And once we have the job information selected, now we can go over to this tab and we can create the quote. Now again, this is going to work and look exact same way as as an estimate. And to give you an example, this is the tab you would go to under an estimate, vendor quotes. The only difference you can see here is all the vendors are already selected in an estimate, whether it's door frames or hardware. They're all right there. In a door and hardware schedule, though, you have to select one of these tabs first, because right now the drop down is empty. And that's because these are two different schedules and the data is stored in two different tables. So the first thing you need to do is, if you want to do the doors and frames first, you want to select that. And then when we click the drop down, we can see we have the doors. Actually, these are the vendors, not the manufacturers, that were used when we built the door schedule form here. So we'll go ahead and select Currys. And when I select Currys, you can see it loads all the doors and frames by Currys in this grid here. It gives you the total count for each type of door, the list price that was used, and the total list based on the quantity. And that was all in the door schedule form. So when I built this schedule, you can build it using the standard discounts. And then once you get all the doors and frames entered, now you can print off one of these reports and send it off to Currys to get any special discounts. And once you get the discount back, instead of going back into the door schedule form and changing them all individually, you can do that right here under this Update Products, Discounts, and Markups tab, and just click on Update Discount right here. And that way you can update the discount globally for all of Currys products. Let's go back over here. And of course, in an estimate, after you get your quote back, you would go here to change discount markup right here. So under this tab. So that way you can update all the discounts globally. All right, so we'll just stay over here on the door schedule. And again, this is all going to work the same as on an estimate for a vendor quote. We've selected this. Now what we need is the folder to save the file to. And it might be a good idea if anyone else in your company might need access to these files. Again, create a shared folder on a server somewhere within your company and create the files on that folder. That way anybody that opens up this project, they'll be able to get to those vendor quotes if, let's say, you're out of the office. Again, and you'll have to have a map drive to that folder. So we're going to click on this Get Folder Path, and it opens up this form here. So I can get to any folder, any place on my hard drive, or if I had a server hooked up, I could get to any shared drives that I had mapped. And that's where I can save the file. So I'm going to just, on this particular one, I'm just going to save it to the My Documents folder. And that's under Libraries. We'll click on Documents here. And if you're doing this to your My Documents folder, make sure you select the top one and not this bottom one, the other one. We'll select that. And I do have a folder here, Portal Pro Vendor Quotes. But I want to create a new folder. I want to show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and select Documents, click on that Documents folder here. Now I'm going to click Make New Folder. And I'm going to call this Vendor Vendor Quotes. Hit my Enter key, that creates the folder. Now I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to click Make New Folder again. And now you can see I can make another folder under Vendor Quotes. And here I'm going to type the job name, and this is job is Circle K. So I'll type Circle K, and this will be the folder that I will save it to. So I can click anywhere off of that, or hit the Enter key on my keyboard, and it creates the folder. So I'm going to click on it again just to make sure, and then click OK. And when I click OK, you can see it loaded that path to that folder into this text box. So that's where the file will be saved. So this is the folder name. Now I need the file name. Now I'm going to call the file, since it's going to Currys, I'm just going to call it Currys. And that'll be the file name. Now don't worry about the date file created. That'll be loaded automatically once you create this Create File button. And we'll go ahead and create the file. And you can see what it is. It loads up the PDF file. This is what it'll look like. This is the vendor name here, and this is the manufacturer name. Now, of course, they're the same here because I'm buying direct from Currys. But if I was buying, let's say, from Top Notch or Akron Hardware or some company like that, their vendor name would be up here, and this would be the manufacturer of the products that will be listed. If I go to the last page, you can see it gives me a grand total for all of the Currys products. All right, so now I've created the file. You can see it put the information in here for me. There's the folder path, the file name, and the date created. Now all this other information is still empty as far as the email. That will be filled in over here. So what I want to do is enter my password for my email account. You can see it's hidden. This password is not saved. Once I close this form, that's going to be cleared out. If I come back in here, I will have to enter that again. So your password for your personal email account or your company email account will not be saved to the system anywhere. So here I'm going to put who the recipient is. Who it might be a quote department, or it might be somebody's name. I'm just going to put my name, and I'm going to use my email address. I'll use this email address here. This is another account that I have. Now, typically what's going to happen is when I selected Currys, another thing you want to start doing is if you go under the Vendor Manufacturers tab, and let's go ahead and pull up Currys. Down here, there's two fields. If you go ahead and enter this information here under the manufacturer vendor form, the email quote name, whoever it may be, or if it's a department name or whatever, and then the email address here, and then save it, then every time you pull up Currys, whether it's here in this form or in the estimates, it will automatically load the recipient name and email address here for you. All right, so now we want a subject. I'm just going to put quote. You can type anything you want. And then in the email body, keep this short, please quote. Now, of course, you can type anything you want. If you want to be a little more specific, if you have certain criteria you want to pass on to the vendor as far concerning the quote, go ahead and type it in here. Okay, so now I'm ready to email the quote. You can see it says date email. That'll be filled in once I click this button. So we'll say email quote, and it tells me the email has been sent. You can see it filled in the rest of the information here. If I go to my email, here's the email I received. You can see to me, and there's the attachment saying please quote. And I can click on the attachment, and there's the quote. Okay, so again, this is how you're going to create a vendor quote to send out. Now, once you can go through each one of the vendors. I can do the same thing here. If I select Algoma, you see it'll load Algoma's products. It'll keep all this information here. The file name, type a new file name for it. I'll call this one Algoma. And you can see it left the password, because that's not going to change for my email that I'm using, that I'm sending it from. But I will need to enter the new recipient email name and address. And this information stays, so you can add to it or change it or whatever. And as I add each one of these, I'll add them to this list here. Now, if at any time, let's go ahead and clear these fields. I want to pull this up for whatever reason. I'll just go ahead and double click it. You just double click whatever line in this grid here, and it'll pull up the information for you here, so you can get a better look at what was done. Okay, I think that pretty well covers it, and hopefully this will make your time go a little bit quicker. It'd make it easier to get those quotes out. You'll get a ready-made PDF file created and get that sent out. And the more time we can save generating quotes and things like that, the better we are. So if you have any questions on this, please feel free to call or email, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Thanks.